So, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. In this webinar, we at Eummena, the Moodle premium partner in Belgium and several other Arab countries, including Saudi Arabia, Emirates, Egypt, Morocco, Tunisia, Lebanon, Palestine, and also soon a few other countries with our colleagues from Readspeaker, the Moodle integrator. We would like today to share with you the the learning experiences you can bring into Moodle via the Readspeaker text to speech. So with us today is Jarno and Yasir. Both of them will be showing us the amazing capabilities of Readspeaker and how you can make Moodle deliver on supporting, of course, learners with special needs, but it can be also used for other purposes, and that will be demonstrated by Jarno. Jarno, we are very happy to be, supporting this event at Eummena, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Jad. Yasir, can you please start the presentation for us?
Thank you, Jed, for the introduction. Thank you all for making time for us today. Bismillah, assalamu alaikum. Welcome all. So today we will be presenting empowering students' achievements by speech-enabling Moodle. So as Jed mentioned, my name is Yasir Abasi. I'm responsible for the business development in the Middle East. Together with me, my colleague Jarno Antjes, Partnership Manager of Education in the EMEA. You can see our contacts below, also our LinkedIn. Please feel free to reach out to us. So the table of contents today, just a short summary what we'll be talking about. I will start with a short introduction about Readspeaker, then talk about what is accessibility and relation with university desire for learning. Then we will move on to how technology is changing our learning experience today and how to improve accessibility and increase engagement with text-to-speech. I will also show you how you can how to add text-to-speech to Moodle. And my colleague Jarno Antjes will do the last part, doing a demo how our tool Readspeaker works on a Moodle platform. So Readspeaker is a leading company and actually also the pioneer of this technology. It's all started about 23 years ago, and the idea was to speech enable websites in order to make them accessible for people suffering from several disabilities. Today, the company is still growing. We are serving more than 10,000 customers around the globe in more than 50 languages, and also 200 voices. We also, good to mention in this occasion, make our own voices. It's also to make custom voices nowadays. And we serve more than 250 organizations in the Middle East, in Saudi, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Egypt, Jordan, Palestine, in this case also. Moving forward. So what is accessibility? Accessibility or web accessibility, we are talking today about web accessibility, is making online content, websites for example, the design in the way that people suffering from visual impairment or disabilities, visual disabilities, the way that they can access it easily. And this is actually a group between 15 to 20%, which is a large group actually. So by adding text-to-speech audio to the website, we make it accessible for these people. Below you can see also the links. You can read some documentation about this topic. So this is a nice picture. We can see this man, disabled, and he's actually making use of this facility. But when we design and think about facilities for people with disabilities, we might also serve other people, as you can see in the picture. So this man, delivery from the Delivery Express company, also making use of it. Or the young parents, you can see all the children or the old people. So moving forward to universal design for learning. And what is actually universal design for learning? Universal design for learning is a principle based on making study material accessible for students in the way they like it or they use it the best. And as you can see in this slide, not all students are the same. Some students like to read, others to listen, and there is a large group that likes to combine both. So by using or adding text-to-speech audio to your content, online content, you are offering them one of the tools that makes it possible for them to choose. And this is the base of universal design for learning. So this is, for example, a picture or from a classroom, 21st century classroom. And as you can see, the students are using different material to access, in this case, hardware, to access the content. And this is more or less the way it should be. We are all different. I would like to use my laptop, my colleague using the tablet. So we give the freedom to all students to choose the way they better can access the content. So talking about bimodal reading is actually a part of an extension of universal design for learning. And the meaning of bimodal reading is simply reading and listening at the same time. So on this pyramid, you can see that using the combination of reading and listening at the same time, it increases the comprehension and the retention of students. And this leads to better results. And this is what we are all looking for. So by using, in this case, our technology, Readspeaker technology within the Moodle platform, you are giving the students the freedom to read as usual, but also the option to listen. And as I mentioned in previous slides, maybe also a group that like to combine both. But also as fourth point, not forgetting people with disabilities. So they might also benefit from this listen option. So you are saving all those students with an additional option, which is very important for them. So the conclusion is, or the impact of using text-to-speech, it gives the students the freedom, flexibility, but it also has an impact about their retention, comprehension, and it leads automatically to better results. I think this is the moment for you, Jarno, to take it over, as you have participated or you know more about this research, University of Barcelona, so you can tell us more.
Indeed, Yassir, indeed. Thank you very much for the short intro. No, as Yassir previously mentioned, Yassir and I have been working with Readspeaker for a long time, and as I'm located in the Netherlands myself, I'm native in the Dutch language. We've seen a lot of research being done, and of course, as Readspeaker, we think it's very important to participate in certain research. Now, I'll not bore you with all the kinds of research or academic publications or investigations we as a company have been involved in. But specifically for today, I wanted to tap into one particular academic research we've collaborated in, performed by the University of Barcelona. Can you click, please, Yassir?
Yes.
In this particular research, what the researchers have done, the University of Barcelona itself also uses the Moodle LMS. So it's a perfect example for this particular webinar, for this particular setting. In this research, the university's Moodle LMS was indeed equipped with the Readspeaker plugin to add a text-to-speech functionality into the university's Moodle LMS. And what the researchers actually wanted to do was to find out not how text-to-speech helps, because that's already done in previous research. It's already shown that being able, just like Yasir mentioned, by giving a learner, giving a student the option for what we call bimodal learning or bimodal reading, so reading and listening to that text at the same time, it was already shown academically that bimodal learning improves comprehension of the text, recollection, and recall of the text or of the course material learners have read. But in this particular research at the University of Barcelona, the researchers want to find out the opinion of learners, of students, of users of the Readspeaker text-to-speech functionality within the Moodle LMS. So it's a very fitting topic, a very fitting research results to share during this webinar. Well, the University of Barcelona, of course, is in Spain, and the majority of all their students is indeed Spanish or born Spanish, and therefore a native Spanish speaker. When the researchers ask the population or the group, the target group of participating students, on what they felt about being able to use text-to-speech in Moodle for Spanish texts, 20% of all those students indicated that it was indeed helpful to help them concentrate and to help them read long pieces of Spanish text. So these are Spanish students, and 1 out of 5 Spanish students already indicates that they feel text-to-speech is indeed helpful for them, even if they do not have a disability. Now, and what the most interesting part about this research was when the researchers asked the students participating in the survey on what they felt on Spanish students when they read English texts. Well, that number went up from 20% to 65%. So 65%, 2 out of 3 participating students indicated that they found the ability to use text-to-speech to listen to English, which is not their native language, to listen to English course material, help them concentrate, and help them understand long texts. And that, of course, is a mind-blowing number. If 2 out of 3 students, which of course is not just students with disabilities, no, that's the biggest, more than half of the students finds using text-to-speech helpful. Well, and as you can see on the slide, we've added the link to the source, so where you can actually download the full research paper. If you want to read it, later on we can share these slides, of course, not a problem. So you can download a copy of the research yourself to look into the precise details of the outcome. But main conclusion is more than half of the students think text-to-speech helps them, or feel text-to-speech helps them concentrate and read through longer text in different languages. So back to you, Yasir.
Thank you, Jarno. Thank you, very clear. Thank you. So moving forward, Readspeaker has a standard integration with Moodle. It's a plugin that can easily be integrated. And of course, we provide the instructions, and the integration is done in a matter of hours. So once it's installed and available on the learning on the Moodle platform, it will be available anytime, anywhere. So with one click, you can listen to the content. There is no need for download. Once it's there, even if the content changes, you add new documents, it will be there, it will read it. So no need for a new integration. So here you can see our solution working on both document, for example, here, and online content, and it works simply by a click. It starts reading from the top, and Jarno will show that later on. Some functionalities of web reader, as we are also focusing on accessibility. So it's a listen button, but with many other options, as you can adjust, for example, the speed of reading. You can change the text color, the words color, enlarge the text, for example, and so on. There is also an option of translating the text or look up for a word. And here comes your moment, Jarno, for the demo, and I would like to give the floor now to Jarno to show you the demo.
Thank you again, Yassir. Let me take the presenter role in this and share my screen with you. Here we go. Well, like Yassir already mentioned in the previous slides, it's our plugin, the Readspeaker plugin for Moodle, is a very easy integration. It's a standard plugin. You can add it and it will become available within the Moodle LMS. Now, indeed, it's also available for Moodle Workplace, and it supports reading out or supporting of text-to-speech, of text and documents within the Moodle LMS. In addition, it's good to know, in one of the previous slides, there was a logo for the stating that this particular listen button, you see it here, I'm hovering my mouse over it right now. It's fully WCAG 2.1 AA compliant. Now, for those of you who might not know, the WCAG guidelines are what is deemed the global accessibility or web accessibility guidelines. So our functionality is fully compatible with the highest level of web accessibility guidelines now in state. Secondly, our plugin is fully certified by Moodle itself. Readspeaker is a certified integration partner for Moodle. So the plugin itself is fully evaluated, checked, however you want to call it, by the Moodle team, and fully approved indeed to be able to function within any Moodle LMS or Moodle Workplace LMS around the globe. Well, like I said, this is the standard functionality. And as Yassir already mentioned, it is fully platform independent, browser independent, and device independent, which means that if I log in into this particular Moodle LMS, this is our Readspeaker internal demonstrational LMS. If I log into this from a Chromebook, a laptop, a Windows laptop, or a MacBook, or any other device, a tablet, a smartphone, it doesn't matter. I will always have access to this particular button. I will see it in my screen and I can click it in order to listen to the content. Now let me give you a quick demonstration of the possibilities and of course how it sounds like. Let's open up a page first, and as you can see, if I scroll down, the listen button will keep appearing in my screen and I can move it around if I want to. Let's open a particular page with a bit more text. Activating the text-to-speech function, well, it's actually, we call it a click and listen experience. So you simply click the listen button.
أنواع الحيوانات في عصور ما قبل التاريخ. الديناصورات هي مجموعة متنوعة من الحيوانات البائدة كانت طيلة 160 مليون سنة. هي الفقاريات المهيمنة على سطح الكرة الأرضية وبالتحديد.
Learners can indeed pause,
من أواخر العصر الثلاثي,
start again, or stop the listen functionality or the reading functionality at their discretion. Some other quick features are available, especially if you're listening to a longer text. There's the ability to click back for 5 seconds. There's the ability to click forward for 5 seconds. Especially, you can consider the situation where you might want to listen back to something you've just heard and you said, hey, I didn't fully comprehend. Let's click back 5 seconds to re-listen to that particular set. There's also an option to control the volume level of the text-to-speech functionality if users think it's too loud, or if they're using a device which is not their own. but for instance, a PC from the university or a laptop provided by their employer where they have to, which they have to use for learning content. And they don't know where the control buttons for the listen functionality are on the device itself. Well, then they can still use the volume control in the Readspeaker listen functionality as well. A more important feature, and very commonly used, is the reading speed. So what we've heard just now is our Arabic voice at 100%, so default reading speed. But if you want to listen to it a bit slower, or maybe even a bit faster, of course, every person is different, everyone has their own preference, and a user can set the reading speed at their own preference. Now, very good to know, any changes a user will make will only reflect on that particular user's user experience. Any settings I change in this particular login, well, I'm now currently logged in as admin user, but the next time admin user logs in, only that particular account for admin user will indeed use the new settings. And none of the other users, other students, other learners will indeed be affected by whatever I change in my account. That's very important to know. By clicking the listen button, well, it activates the reading. As you've seen, it's still, because I paused it, it's still visible, the colors of what we call the highlighting feature. Now, the highlighting feature is indeed meant for users, for students, for learners, to help them focus on what is being read out loud. So it highlights the precise word in the sentence that are pronounced or spoken to them at that particular point in time. Due to the Big Blue Button connection, there might be a bit of a delay in this demonstration because I'm in the Netherlands. It has to go to the database and then forward to your device. So there's quite of an extra hiccup or an extra line in there. So my apologies if it might appear to be a bit slower. On my end, it's fully 100% in line. Now, this highlighting, if a certain user might have epilepsy, for instance, of course, they can disable that as well. But I'll show you in a minute. Because another feature for starting, so initiating the read out loud functionality, is simply by selecting some text. And that enables this particular pop-up, which allows you to either listen to
أنواع
only your selection.
الحيوانات في عصور ما قبل التاريخ.
And of course, you can select any piece of text. So let's take this word, for instance, and we can only listen to this particular word. But as you've seen, there's also other options as well. So there's, for instance, a dictionary tool, a word lookup, where you can look up the precise meaning of this particular word. And here's the explanation. And of course, the explanation can also be listened to if you activate this functionality here. But like I said, I'm Dutch myself. And if I want to read this in Dutch, I can simply select this, click the translation feature, have it translate into Dutch, and then I can even listen to it in Dutch if I want
Soorten
to.
in de prehistorie.
So this allows a user, if they have to learn something in a language or read something in a language that is not their native language, and if it's, even if speech enabling in that new language might be a bit too hard for them, they can still translate it into a new language and then listen to it in that language as well. So with this, we try to give as much tools as possible to learners in order to make sure that we facilitate them to learn in their preferred method, their preferred way of learning. Like I said, a user can, we saw the highlighting functionality with the colors. They can either disable that or even change the colors if that is something they would like to do because of a certain disability like dyslexia. They might want a different color contrast. Well, that's what they can do here. So you simply click these three bars. There's the settings option. And within the settings option, you can, for instance, change the color of the highlighting or simply even disable it or only have a sentence or just a word highlighted, etc. Again, these are functional cookies only for this particular user if I change them. only that particular user will indeed have these changed settings. Behind this menu, there's a whole lot of other assistive features. One very important one is the reading language. So let's assume you might come across a situation where there might be a bit of an English piece of text on this particular page, right in the middle of all the Arabic text. Then, of course, you want to have the right language, the right voice, pronounce that specific piece of English text. And here, the user itself, they can even opt between Australian English, oh, my apologies, Australian, British, or American English if they want to change the voice or change the language that needs to pronounce the text. Another way to ease activation of the listen functionality, for instance, people with a motorical disability who might not be able to select by use of a mouse, is point and read. If I activate this, what happens is I simply have to click a certain area of text. Let's again take the title. I just once click the title.
أنواع الحيوانات في عصور ما قبل.
I just paused it, but as you can see, it puts a curve, a box around that particular area of text which I clicked. But an area can also be an alinea, a column, a field, a cell in a table, anything.
الديناصورات هي مجموعة.
So it allows a user for very intuitive click, directly listen to a full text. Now, there might, of course, also be learners or students within your organization who might have a visual disability or a visual impairment for whom this text size is too small. Then we have the option for text enlargement. And if they activate this and then use the listen button,
أنواع الحيوانات في عصور ما قبل.
Let me pause it again real quickly. What happens then is that the text that is being read out loud is no longer highlighted in the text, but is shown in a larger size at the bottom of the screen. And here they can even choose to even make it even more bigger or smaller, setting at their own discretion, at their own liking. A third option, which is a very popular tool, is what we call form reading. If you activate this, and I don't know, there's no direct form here to enter some text in. For instance, a situation where you have a essay type question or a simple form where a student or a learner or a participant in your course might need to enter some text themselves. Could be an open question, like I said, essay or something like that. Could be a simple description they need to enter. Well, especially if you have to write something down in a language which is not your native language, or if you have a certain disability, like indeed dyslexia, then it helps to be able to listen to your own entered text. And that is precisely what Form Reader does. It allows a learner, a student, a participant in your course to listen back and therefore auditorily check, to listen back to their own answer, their own entered text before they submit it or before they submit their essay or essay type question in an exam or assessment. Furthermore, and this is one of my own personal favorites, is a text version. Now we're currently looking at the plain text within our Moodle LMS ourselves. And as you can see, the Readspeaker LMS we use is very plain, it's very simple, and it's very, in case of color, we have a very large contrast, black text, white background. But it might, of course, be the case that your organization might be using certain colors as a background or colors for text, or even have certain images in the background. And that might, of course, be distractive for certain learners, or it might even be hard for certain people with certain reading difficulties or visual impairments to actually see that particular text. Well, then we have a solution with the text view. What happens if a user clicks this? The text on the screen is shown in a separate pop-up, and they can position this wherever they want. They can even make it as large as they want. And of course here, even increase the text if they want to. They can listen to it if they want to. Just the same user experience in the previous mode. But the very big difference is here they can choose a font or a size themselves, a certain color scheme. So let's just try something else. Red on blue. And increase the size between the spaces between letters, words, and sentences. Here you already see a change in the background, and now they can still read the same text or listen to the same text, and they can still select certain words, of course, and only read to their selection. But now the text is visually presented in their choice of size, of distance between letters, words, and sentences, and their preferred choice in color. So it helps them to see, it helps them to get access in their preferred way. And again, all these personal settings are personal and only for this particular user. None of the other users will directly use this unless they set it themselves. Other options available are, for instance, a page mask. Envision a learner who might have a concentrational disorder like ADHD, who might find all these extra buttons distracting and might need help focusing on the text. Then they can click this functionality and it will open what we call a page mask. Now the mask itself can be increased or decreased to a size which they feel is nicest for them. And it can help them focus on a specific piece of text and darkening out or graying out the rest of the page. And this, of course, as you can see, the listen button is always visible because they can still control the listen button and activate the listening if directly or simultaneously while using the page mask if they want to. And of course, they can turn it off again at their discretion at any time. There's also an option to download the text as an MP3, as a spoken MP3 for offline usage if the user wants to. Now, good to know, this is a setting which can be turned off by an institution. So, for instance, if you're offering exams or assessments through Moodle, of course, you do not want your exam questions to be downloaded as an MP3, then you can disable this so that it will not be able for users, for learners or participants in your exams to download as an MP3. And finally, there's always a help functionality with explanation on what the Readspeaker button actually does, how to control it, etc. And as you can see, this is now already shown in what we've previously selected as our preferred settings in color, in size, and in distance between letter, words, and sentences. Now this is the listen functionality for the text within Moodle. And like we said previously, besides just simply the text, we also support listening to documents as well. So for instance, here we have a certain file and there's a tiny little image right next to it. And if you simply click that, what happens is that particular, in this case PDF, but this works for PDFs, for Word files, for EPUB books, Excel files, PowerPoint presentations, any type of textual file format can indeed be opened within this particular tool, is supported or is compatible with this particular tool. So in this case, the PDF is now opened in this particular application. It's called DocReader, as you can see down here. And a learner can simply just look at the document, go through it. If they want to zoom out to get a good overview, or zoom in if that's necessary, they can just do at their discretion. At any time, now this is only a 2-page document, but at any time they can flick through different pages or the previous page or the next page by going down or going up for a new page. They can always have a miniature representation or what they call a thumbnail view for next pages, and you can just simply click that particular page you want to go to. So you can see, hey, I'm looking for a particular page with a particular image of a graph I want to review or reread again to prepare for a test or a quiz. Simply use the miniature pages, click them, you're directly navigated to that particular page. and especially helpful when you're working on a touchscreen device like a tablet. There's always a button on the left to go a page back and a button on the right to go a page forward. Now here, of course, there's a listen functionality. If you click it, it'll start reading from top to bottom, but a user can always simply select some text as well. And just like we see within the Moodle LMS, within the course itself, there's either a listen functionality, a dictionary, or a translational function.
هل تبحث عن طرق لتسهيل الوصول إلى المحتوى الخاص بك وجعله تفاعلياً؟
So they can listen to anything in this particular document at their discretion. Now, one change in this case, what I've done in here, as you can see, if I select the text, it'll say listen, dictionary, and translate. Of course, we also have a Arabic language user interface for this. The user can change that him or herself, but my apologies, my Arabic isn't the best of all, so I prefer to use the English user interface for this particular bit of the demonstration. A user can expand the toolbar. When they do so, they have a settings option, and within that settings option, they can of course change the language of the menu. Indeed, like I said, Arabic is available, but as you can see, there's a very long list of languages supported for the user interface. Good to know, just like Yassir mentioned a couple of slides earlier on in the presentation, in total, Readspeaker supports over 50 languages in more than 200 different voices. If I recall correctly, that nowadays is even higher. I think it's almost 75 languages in almost 275 voices. But since we're continuously developing voices and languages and launching them every now and then, that number just keeps on adding up through time. As you can see, there's also an option to automatically flip the page. So if you start reading, you hit the end of the page, it can automatically turn the page to the next page and continue reading from there, which is of course very helpful for a user who might need to read a multi-page book. If you have to listen to 20 or 30 pages, it's helpful that it will automatically flip the page and continue reading. Again, the highlighting colors can be changed. There's text mode colors that can be changed again, just like I've shown previously with the text spacing, which increased the size between letters, words, and sentences, etc. Because also in this particular document viewer, there's two options. Just like what we just saw within Moodle LMS itself, we're now currently looking at layout mode. So let's zoom out. If I were to print this PDF, this is what it would look like on the piece of paper rolling out of the printer. But I also get that text mode option. And that will use these settings, which we've just shown here. I click text mode, the text out of the documents and relevant images are then shown in the color contrast, in the size, with the width or the space between letter, words, and sentences, which I selected myself. And of course here, everything again is available. Simply select,
هل تبحث عن طرق
use the dictionary, etc., etc. And of course, you can flick between text mode and layout mode as much as you want as a learner or as a user. We already saw the page mask in the Moodle LMS, of course, and logically it's available within documents again as well. You can make it as small and as big as you want as a user. Now here we also have what we call a reading ruler, which helps you focus on the specific line of text you might want to read, which is quite helpful if someone has a concentrational disorder or a balance disorder, and therefore helps them stay on the right sentence, the right line. And of course, they can decrease and increase the size again. Now here's a very interesting tool, which is actually helpful for every learner, every student. And it's called the highlighter. So not highlighting, which highlights what is actually being pronounced, but a highlighter as in one of those little markers you might have used back in the days, to highlight a piece of text in order to focus your attention on that piece of text. As you click the highlighter, this little toolbox opens, which you can position anywhere you want, and you could use 4 colors to highlight any text you might think interesting. So I can highlight this, I can highlight this, this, and the cool thing is, I've just highlighted this in layout mode. If I flip over to the text mode, my highlights are already there. And the same thing the other way around. I can simply highlight something here, go back, and here's my highlights. Now, why is it helpful for all students to make highlights? The answer is here, because you can collect and download your highlights. So think of a situation where a student has to read a 5, 10, maybe even 20-page document. Then they can simply highlight in certain colors they might want to use and collect and download these highlights. They can choose which colors they want to include. Now, currently I only used green, so I can keep them all included. I can say I only want to collect them from this particular page or the entire document, etc., etc. What happens is I click collect and download. As you can see at the bottom of the page, now downloaded a PDF containing my highlights. So, in other words, I made a fully digital summary of my document directly from Moodle. And that's why this is very helpful for all students. And from an ecological perspective, it's also very eco-friendly because you no longer have to print a multi-page document on paper, use a marker to highlight it by hand, and even write over your marked highlights on a different piece of paper to make your own manual summary. No, you can directly do that from Moodle with the Readspeaker tools. Simply use the highlighter to highlight whatever you think is interesting, important to know, collect them, and you're done. You've got a digital summary. And of course, you can clear your highlights. You can clear them from a page or from the entire document if you want to delete them afterwards. Now, again, good to know, any highlights made are mine only. So I'm making these now in my own admin user account. Only I, in the admin user account, can see my highlights. None of the other students can see them again. Let's clear them now so I have a clean slate for my next presentation. And of course, there's options again to download an MP3 or download the file or just print the document itself. And like I said previously, so certain such tools, such functionalities can, or such features can indeed be disabled. So we've now seen what the web reader plugin, consisting of a text-to-speech functionality with all these extra assistive features, which can all be specified to your own personal needs, can indeed be used in the Moodle LMS itself on the text and also on documents, and create, for instance, those digital summaries, helpful for any user that might be on the go, wanting to listen, simply have a preference to listen to content. And especially nowadays, if you consider that listening to a podcast, well, podcasts on Spotify are more popular than purchasing books on Amazon, especially for younger students, younger aged students. People just prefer to listen. It's very simple. I mean, we could have, instead of schedule a webinar where you can see and listen, we could have sent slides over and you would need to read. Well, in the end, people just simply prefer to listen. And that's precisely what we at Readspeaker want to enable. We want to give learners, give students the option. Do they want to read? They can read. Do they want to listen? Then they can listen. Or, even better, listen while reading along with the highlighted text. For indeed, just like Yassir mentioned, to improve comprehension, recollection, and recall of information or course material they've read. So that wraps up my demonstration in this case, and I would like to give the floor back to you, Yasir.
Thank you. Shukran, Yarno. You can see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, with this, we come at the end of our webinar presentation for today. So you can see our contact details, myself, my colleague Jarno, contact details of Mr. Jed from Eummena. And I would like to give some space for Q&A. And yeah.
Yes, we hope it was clear. So not just the product demonstration itself, of course, what the product can do, but also why it is important to speech enable and to offer a listen functionality. If anyone has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We're happy to answer them directly. And if time allows for it, maybe even open a line or two. And if there's any questions later on, not a problem. Please do either send us an email, reach out to us on LinkedIn, whatever means necessary.
Let me just note, and thank you very much, Jarno. Thank you, Yasir. Just note that the microphones are enabled, so either typing or talking will do. We do have a couple of questions in the chat, and I invite you to take a look at them there and also add any questions that you may have. The first question came from Khalid, who actually had to run for another meeting, the story of our lives these days. And it's related to the cost of the plugin and if he can install a version of it for his Moodle LMS. So he's pretty eager to get his hands on the solution, which is great.
And I also see he left his email address, so we can reach out to him later on as well, which is perfect since he had to leave. Now, just for the general audience, it's very good to know. Of course, it's a paid plugin. The price is dependent on the amount of users within your Moodle LMS. So even if you have a smaller user base, smaller student group, smaller organization where you train employees, then of course the license fee is smaller in comparison to when you have a larger user base, which is fair. On the plugin itself, how to install it or where to install it, well, you add it to Moodle. And of course, Eummena can give you all the precise technical details about that. But I do want to emphasize, you can always test it free of charge, no strings attached. The reason why we offer this is very simple. It has to fit your organization. It has to fit your precise student's need. And I always compare it to buying a car. Nobody walks into a car dealership and would say, you know, I want to have that car in the color red. No, you always want to take it for a test drive, but more importantly, take it for a test drive with your children in the backseat. Well, in this case, your children being the students or the learners, but take those along for a test drive. Get their feedback. Like I shared previously, the slide on the academic research by the University of Barcelona. Yes, the majority of your students will indeed find this helpful and indicate to find this helpful. But if you want to get your first-hand experience, feel free to use that free trial option, that free demo per option. So reach out to Jad. He can inform you on all the possibilities in that case, but it's free to use for testing purposes to see if it fits your organization.
I think we have another question from Elizabeth about how does the reader deal with citations, footers, and headers? I don't know if you I think you kind of addressed it at some point, but yeah.
Yeah. And then I am assuming citations, footers, and headers in documents or pages. Well, we can look into both. So footers and headers in pages. So the a structure with titles or headers, etc. Of course, those are all read out. As long as it's text, it can be read out. Citations itself, so links, yes, those can be read out as well. Even alt descriptions, so alternative descriptions for images, in order to make sure that if someone has trouble seeing the actual image or graph or map or chart, then the Readspeaker tool is able to read out loud that alternative description if you wanted to. And the same thing applies to documents. If there's a good structure using a header and a footer in the document, or with links or something like that, any well configured documents, we can read out anything. The tool can read out all of the content if required. So I hope that's. See, Elizabeth is typing. I hope that covers your or answers your question, Elizabeth. If you want to use your microphone, Elizabeth, that's also a possibility. Graag gedaan hoor. Are there any ways to eliminate in-text citations? And with in-text citations, you mean like something in between brackets? Or guessing so? Yes. Yes and no. If you construct a document and there's an inline citation during construction, during generation or creation of a document, you can indeed disable that. However, from a functional perspective, we know from experience, you'll need to be able to read that out loud as well. Not for the entire user group, but certainly for certain users, it will indeed be very helpful to be able to listen to anything. And those users who might not need to listen to that particular citation part in between brackets, they do not mind hearing that. But for those who have an actual visual impairment, it's imperative for them to be able to listen to that. So from that balance between for a small group for whom it's imperative to listen to versus a larger group who, well, they don't mind hearing something like that, we always say, from a functional perspective, make sure that it's just speech enabled for everything, so that those in full need of support, it can indeed have that full support. I think that wraps up the direct questions at this point. If there's any more, feel free, share the floor, put your answer in or your question in the chat, or simply reach out to either ourselves or directly to Eummena afterwards.
Okay, thank you, Jarno. I mean, Yassir, it's amazing. We also ourselves learned a lot. We saw the capabilities. It's amazing. The Arabic was all good, so I confirmed to you. So that's something.
Thank you very much.
Amazing. So we are really excited to see some examples of good use of it, and indeed give it a try. As Jarno said, we're happy to support you guys in getting access to the product. Contact us or contact Readspeaker. Feel free to do so. For now, I think we can conclude the sessions. Nikos, anything else? But thanks a lot to everybody here in this session.